Ladies and gentlemen, it's your captain speaking. My name is Naomi Radke. Welcome aboard your flight to the Gold Coast today.
Good evening, Australia. Welcome to the show. I'm Michael Kuzilny. Tough times never last, but tough people do. I've got an amazing guest on the show tonight, Naomi Radke. Where do we start? At 7, she came home from primary school and told her parents, I want to fly in an aeroplane. I want to be an air hostess. In 1987, she became one of the first pilots in Australia. And after a 20-year successful career up in the air, leaving as a captain, she decided to create an even more exciting life. Thank you for coming on the show, Naomi. Amazing journey.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So 1987. When you were 7, what year was that?
Oh, so that was around 1979 or 1980. And in the news was a lady who was the first female pilot at Ansett taking the anti-discrimination to court, Debbie Laurie. Yeah. And my dad came home and was shocked. And his words were, "You're not going to believe it. They're going to let girls fly planes." And for me, that was it. I was in. I was hooked. And
what's Dad's first name?
Keith Radke.
And Keith has been a pilot for how long?
He was a pilot for 30 years. About 20 or 30,000 hours of flying experience, which is how you measure it.
And he's still flying?
He's 84 now and he still flies a little plane around.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, for fun. Yeah.
And he never expected his daughter to follow his footsteps?
Not at that point,
because
you
shocked him.
I was the youngest of 4 girls, and more likely at that stage that it would be a son that would follow on. But he said he opened up the possibility by there is someone doing that, and I never saw any female pilots. So to me, when I travelled all the time as a young person, it was cabin crew and air hostesses. So
amazing. You know, you told me your life journey before, and you're just an amazing, authentic person, but you look far too young to, all the things you've done. But we love authentic people, don't we?
Oh, we do. It's exhausting to not be.
Yeah, all this bullshit of, what are we? And a lot of people base their self-worth on their job or their money or their ego, don't they?
Yeah, it actually can become your identity, and how you're explained is via your job. And as a pilot, definitely there's a lot of identity around it, and there's also a lot of ego.
Can you imagine that, everybody? And Naomi was saying before, and we'll get her to do it later on, the great announcement. Can you imagine flying to the Gold Coast? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's your captain, Naomi Radke speaking. 28 degrees on the Gold Coast. Enjoy your flight, but we'll get the real version very shortly. But can you imagine in that male-dominated world, sitting there with the pilot who might be rooting one of the air hostesses and having another family at home, There's even been stories where pilots have had 3 families all over the world, Maybe that's why their relationship lasted. But isn't it amazing how some people do base their power on their ego? And you've gone through a lot of ups and downs, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
And that's what makes you so beautiful.
Yeah, I think that you don't let it define you, all the things that happen. I had a few things happen in the space of 2 years. It started with I got divorced, so my marriage ended, which is challenging. And then I had a medical thing. I had breast cancer and had to have surgery with that, which changed my body.
What year was that?
It was in 2011, 2012 when I had surgery. God bless. And then soon after that, which is another catalyst to where I ended up, my sister passed away tragically in the northern, as far as you can get away from Australia, in northern Scotland, which was obviously devastating for our family.
God bless you, darling. Relationships are difficult, especially over the last 12 months with the COVID pandemic. They say one of the worst separation rates over the last 12 years. So if you've been blowing it at home, send your love and best wishes, give them a big hug and a kiss. Maybe make love tonight, because, we don't need to all break up. Unfortunately, I did, she did, and a lot of people in this room did, What happened to relationships? Why did our parents and our grandparents stay together? And why are so many people not getting on? What do you reckon the answers to that?
Why aren't people getting on? I think it's you end up finding a way to make other people feel more comfortable. And that can happen in a relationship, which it did for me, and that I don't have any blame around that. But that's what I needed to learn was, what do I want and who am I? And then that forms what I want out of a relationship, and that's what I attracted, as it turned out, in my next relationship.
Naomi. Now, in summarising and simplifying it, so Coldstream Airport, that's where it started.
Yeah. And
at what age?
When I was 16, my 16th birthday, I didn't have a driver's licence in Melbourne, so Mum had to drive me there, and I went for my first flying lesson in a two-seater, a little Cessna, little high-wing plane.
Amazing.
Tiny.
Who paid for it?
That was very lucky for me. My dad paid for it.
Beautiful.
He paid for my flying lessons, and I got a big warning with it as well. If you lose interest, that's it. It stops. But
was there ever a time when you and your dad were up in the air together?
We never flew together in an airline environment, but when I was still very low time pilot, we did fly together in some small planes, and he got to impart his knowledge onto me about staying safe and staying alive in this industry.
And Naomi, what did all your friends say when they were off doing all their silly arts courses and stuff, and doing all the stuff their parents and their teachers wanted them to do? And then Naomi's, she's at this at Coldstream Airport, and then she's at Benalla. And I went to this. I remember when I was a scout, when I was 15. It was one of the most memorable experiences, and it might have been her towing the glider, but I was up in the air, and it's such freedom, isn't it?
Oh, it's lovely.
What is it? What are they called? Gliders?
Gliders, and the aeroplane I flew was a tow plane.
Wow.
Yeah.
At what age?
So I would have been 19 then, because I'd finished all my flying training. There's a process to go through.
Amazing.
And then I went up there to get my first job, and it was hard to get during that time because the pilots' dispute was all around 1989. So there was lots of spare pilots taking jobs in little planes. Yeah. So the one I got was towing gliders in the tow plane with the engine.
Wow.
And that was no pay at that time. It was about getting ours up.
You would have been the life of the party at, when you did find time for your friends. And because everyone's life, a lot of it's so boring, but they always said, wow. But let's talk about some of those challenges and also about why you left the airlines. But thank you very much for coming on. And thank you very much for watching. We'll be back very shortly. Thank you very much for watching all these years. My name is Michael Kuzilny. Tough times never last, but tough people do. If you're going through a difficult issue at the moment, God bless you. Remember, tomorrow is another day. And if you are going through the difficult times, just go through it. Often there's nothing to fix, and everything's impermanent. All the good things never last, and all the bad things never last either, because we've all gone through difficult times, haven't we? But before we speak to the great Naomi Radke again, at 29 she became a captain of an airline. Can you imagine that? And when she was 7, she said to Mum and Dad, I want to be an air hostess. And can you imagine as a captain sitting in this aeroplane in this very male-dominated industry, more than in those years?
Definitely.
And the stories you heard. Can you tell us some sneaky stories you heard, some real dirty ones? Go on.
Okay. I don't know how it's going to go.
The ones where you thought, I know what you're up to.
Look, there's definitely plenty of stories. One of the stories, I guess, there was a bit of a club on certain overnights people would catch up, certain crew. I wasn't in the club. I just heard of it. So that one was actually called The Family. So if you're in the family, yeah.
And if any family members are watching, good on you.
Yeah, well, they know. I'll probably get text messages about it.
So the family, it is a family because, you're spending more time with each other than people spent at home.
Well, actually, when you first sign on, you can be flying. You haven't met that person before. Quite often, the other crew member, you've got 30 minutes to get to know them and know that you can trust them in an emergency situation. So you get very good at getting to know people fast.
Of course.
And then you're in a flight deck, and because that next takeoff could be the biggest emergency you've ever had.
Naomi was saying to me that sitting in that cockpit is a bit like being in a male's locker room. There's some amazing stories. There's the family. What else do I want to ask you? Oh, that's right. About 8 years ago, a guy rang and said, Michael, you're a drink driving lawyer. I said, I can help you with that. But he was flying for a big airline overseas, and he was 0.19 whilst flying the plane. They gave him a breath test. And I thought,
Wow.
and I was a bit confused. I didn't know the legislation for being 4 times the legal limit, being a captain of an aeroplane. I said, I'll get back to you. But he said, look, Michael, this has been happening for years. He said, it's only because they breath tested me. But he was basically saying that he used to fly intoxicated, not completely pissed, for 20 years. And
Wow.
uh,
I haven't heard.
did some people maybe have a bit of sometimes, not you, but others, go to the bar somewhere and then they're still a little bit hungover in the morning?
Overnights were always a social time for crew, but it all changed anyway because they brought in testing. It was called damp testing, which was the drug and alcohol, which did change it. Nobody sort of goes out anymore because they're too worried about losing their job. So there are stories of that. I never obviously got involved in that.
No.
But it's too hard also. You don't want to be hungover flying an aeroplane. It's too hard.
So we
too
won't
much
mention any family members or names. But can you do me a favour? I want to close my eyes and like your beautiful man just said, it's much better flying first class than being the pilot. But can you do the announcement? I'm flying to the Gold Coast.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's your captain speaking. My name is Naomi Radke. Welcome aboard your flight to the Gold Coast today. Flight time is 1 hour and 50 minutes today. We'll be taking off to the north. We're expecting smooth conditions. Please observe the seatbelt sign and listen to all instructions from your crew. I'll get back to you once we're closer to the Gold Coast with an updated time of arrival and the weather conditions in the Gold Coast. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the flight with us.
Oh, can I have a champagne, please? No, that's amazing. That's amazing. And what about one time where turbulence was really bad?
Oh, yeah, we've had, obviously with turbulence, it's hard to predict unless it's weather. If it shows up on your radar screen because it's moisture with weather, you can see it. But there's also something called clear air turbulence. They call it CAT. And that's can be quite aggressive and shuddery on the plane. For me, most of the time I try to set everybody down because you've got high level winds, but the worst kind is when the cabin crew are still moving around. But I never had it where anyone got injured, thankfully, but it does happen.
Were you ever scared?
Scared is interesting. I think the truth for a pilot, sometimes you've got tension inside, but on the outside, you have to project that everything is good. But you can have a lot of stuff. There's a lot of emotional stuff that pilots don't talk about. And as a trainer, when I was training pilots, I like to tap into that because you have to understand your fears. Because you've got to, well, for me, I had 180 lives in my hands.
When did you become a jet mum? When did you have your first child?
When I was 29. And then I was a captain soon after that.
Amazing.
He was 9 months old when I became a captain.
Amazing. What an amazing effort. When did you get divorced?
In 2011.
How many years?
We were married 18 years. Yeah.
2011.
And we're actually much better friends now.
There's an amazing. But can you imagine? A lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people either divorced, going through a separation right now, and you might be right through it, And you know what it's like when you're going through all that, trying to concentrate on work and trying to put on the social mark. How you going? Yeah, I'm great. Because you don't want to broadcast bad news. And I went through it myself. You know what I mean? And but then I thought, stuff all that. I used to say, look, I'm not the happiest days, going through some turbulent times, but things will get much better. But I can imagine sitting in the cockpit when you are going through all that. There's a lot of bloody thinking time, isn't there?
Well, there's a lot of thinking time, and you actually have to separate it and leave some stuff at home because you don't have the capacity to be focusing on that, and you should actually not go to work that day if it's that bad.
So, Naomi Radke, you're an amazing lady, a great leader for so many people, ladies, and because you really took control of your thoughts, you took control of your life. You've got the great man over there, he's a beautiful soul,
He is.
And your ex is also a beautiful person, but you decided you've grown, he just wasn't for you. You got through breast cancer, but we might get some tips on how people watching can get over those tough knocks in life. We'll be back very shortly. Naomi Radke is one of the most amazing people I've spoken to and interviewed. She's left school fairly early, became an airline pilot, I think. I mean, started flying at 16, became a mother, but so many different things. I'm very excited to speak to this lady. Breast cancer, 2011.
Yes.
How does a lady feel when she's got it?
Well, I actually thought I have 3 older sisters. I thought I voted myself the least likely to get it.
Yeah.
But then, because my mum got it, my sister got it first, then my mum got it. And so I was getting checks early. So I had the gift from my family to go and get checks early. And it turned up actually on a MRI I got tested for, and it was quite a lot there. So I had to have a mastectomy and reconstruction. And a lot of things happened because of that, because I had to face my body was different. And such a feminine part of me had gone.
Oh, bless you.
And it was a big shift in that, but...
A big turning point, and sometimes those turning points where we look back are some of the greatest things that happen to us because we become more real, we find ourselves, and some of the most beautiful and authentic people have gone through difficult times. I certainly have, there's no bullshit with Michael Kuzilny. We say it the way she says it, the way it is, but there's still a lot of people who can't be authentic, and I don't even talk. We just haven't got time for that shit. And I think the other thing we haven't got time for is constantly we're having to fit in, constantly having to please people, like so delete the disease to please is something Oprah lives by, and you really found your authentic self in recent years.
Yeah, actually the catalyst was a few things that happened in my life, but breast cancer was huge because, and I straight away knew in my head that it was the best thing that was going to happen to me.
Wow.
And it just took some details and my rest of my kind of my soul to catch up, to go, it was just wake up. For me, it was wake up, change your life.
Amazing.
And a lot's changed since
Naomi
then.
Radke, can you tell some of the people out there watching whose self-worth is based on their job, the money, on this, on that, and are you busy on that? That's not that important to identify ourselves with where we live or what we do.
No, and not even what you look like matters.
It's beautiful.
It is actually, it's all within, and you've heard all the cliche, beauty's within. I feel it now.
Well, you're beautiful,
I feel beautiful. Even, this is like the secondary beautiful. Is what's happening. But even I looked differently when I was flying because I was trying to be so tough to fit into the male-dominated world. I figured out later in that career that being my full, authentic, feminine self, I got a better reputation. It seemed to happen.
Well, Naomi,
after.
if I was at a bounce, if I was at the 21st century dance when Frankston's a bouncer, I'd ask you for your ID even now. And this guy here, who went to Mount Isa High School, I went to Mount Isa High School too. But look, this is amazing. You got through that, but in 2015, you decided to leave the airlines or being a captain of an airline. Amazing. Why?
Well, I did leave the career that my dad was most proud of. It actually was part of our definition of a relationship for father and daughter. I think I got in at the start. I wanted to do something different, but there is an element of it pleased Dad, a bit of the people-pleasing thing.
Wow.
But you have to get to that stage where is it still real? Is this still what I
That
want?
stage, you really found your authentic self, and you're going down the river of life. And I read somewhere you want to inspire 1 million people to find their feminine, authentic selves.
Yeah. So since then, I have soul searched and discovered I've been doing some writing, and I've been in the airline. I figured out underneath all that, I was a storyteller. I led on the aeroplane through stories. Wow. If I had a problem, I needed solutions around me, I would tell my story and then they'd understand it and I'd get help. And it was a really soft but powerful way to lead for me.
How amazing is that?
It suited me.
Can I ask you something, Naomi? Can I ask you something?
You can ask me anything.
What is sensual meditation?
So
I like to meditate, but this sounds even more exciting.
Well, a woman's mind is so busy, multitasking, complex and mysterious. So I started up a story club for women around sensuality without shame. was flying with the boys, I learnt that they don't worry about that.
No.
They don't judge each other, but women are, and especially women over 40, when we've come from parents who were from the 50s, there are certain roles around it. So I wanted to help switch the woman's mind and to awaken her intimate identity. So by having stories and reading stories, and it's also audio stories that go out as a mini-series, it gets her into like a meditation state almost to unlock the busyness of her mind and put sensuality as a priority again. Because the pendulum swings between you start off as a lover and you go to be a mother, and some people get stuck in mother and don't swing back to the lover. But
this is
my
amazing.
age, you come out the other end.
This is amazing. And a couple of very important questions for the viewers out there. Going through some tough times, and no one's exempt, except when you die, corpses have no problems. But when we're human, we're always going to have problems, you know. It's up and down like a prostitute's pants. The Buddhist people say 10,000 joys, 10,000 sorrows. That's what they should teach at school. What are some of the tips for people who may not want to wake up in the morning? They're contemplating suicide or drugging or drinking. And that's question number one. And question number two, what are the plans for the great lady, you know, over the next few years?
Well, first of all, I think when you wake up in the morning, and I don't get it right all the time.
No.
I wake up negative sometimes, or I wake up during the night. You can ask my lovely partner, and I worry. I have worries. And it's now I just slow it down to what's important. You know, what have I got? I've got everything I need.
And what about those people saying, yeah, but what's the answer to my problems? How do they get through? They've just gone through a divorce. They're depressed. They've gone bankrupt after COVID. You know, they think there's nothing left.
I just think it's not forever. If everybody could think it's not forever, something that's happening to you is probably a lesson. When you're ready to actually receive it as the lesson and take the positive out. And it's not. I'm not saying that's easy. But on the other side, I'm proof that you can come out the other side and you're actually going to be okay and get better. And they're part of your story.
Naomi's so right. For the last 15 years, I've always said everything in life happens for our maximum benefit. You know, everything. If you put that take on it, you know, and if you look at all the things you thought were difficult times over the years, it's just the universe redirecting you, isn't it? And finishing off, what are the plans for the great lady over the next 12 months?
So the next 12 months for my online erotic story club called Oh Me Time is to keep growing it and getting it out globally, because I want to universalise sensuality as a priority for women. And my big hairy goal is to actually get my stories onto a paid television or something like that, so that it's shared with everybody and it's easy to access and it can be turned into a movie.
That's amazing. Me time. I want to be part of all this. You know?
Can join.
I want
it's
to
not
make friends
just
with a great man. We'll have to get him on the couch next time.
I think so too.
Thank you very much, Naomi Radke. You're an amazing person, and we need more people like you. Love and best wishes. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. Good night.